So first off, I saw Aishwary's message. He literally came all the way to Delhi just for this. Super glad to have him here. And for those of you who don't know, Aishwary is lead of Polygon at the global, managing everything global payments and a lot of BD efforts across the world, and also by default, as a function of also being based in India, has also looked into everything that Polygon has also done here in India. So thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks for having me here.
So actually, I just want to talk a little bit today about what Ethereum really means to India right now and what it can be, right? Now, a couple of things here, right? I'm going to provide my perspective on this, and feel free to disagree. In fact, I'd love to learn more. That's the whole point of this. From my perspective, I think India is usually grouped with a lot of other regions historically when it comes to how people see what like they are in people's Web3 strategies, right? In terms of use cases, developers is a easy sort of. Everybody knows that India is the hub of developers, and we are the fastest growing country in terms of blockchain developers. That aside, most of us don't actually use crypto in our daily lives. Our lives are going pretty well without it, right? So in my sense, there are two major things. One is that I think we have a stable currency, stable-ish, but still far better. It holds its weight against a lot of other currencies in the world, which is why I think it's hard to compare it with other sort of ascending regions, so ascending or developing regions like LATAM and other places where their own currencies doesn't hold the peg really well. So crypto and stable coins are a better option there. And the second thing is that we also have quite decent fintech infrastructure, which is quite mature and in some ways even leaps ahead of what is there in the West. And so therefore it also is hard to compare with other regions, right? Even Europe and Africa, right? Like in fact, I believe there are talks that where we are looking to export our UPI system to countries like France. So then comes to what actually, if not that, how does actually crypto make inroads into India, and how do we make Ethereum relevant to the everyday Indian? Would love to hear.
Sure. I think I'll start with talking a lot about the global economy. When you look at India, one of the biggest things is we have a very efficient payment ecosystem, and the reason for that is because UPI works really well here. It can scale. The beauty about it is nobody cares about how the tech is running. At the front, when you look at UPI, you always feel like my transaction happened instantly, but it settles every 2 hours, 24/7. So you're not settling real time. But that's not a problem because effectively, as a user, I don't care. I don't care if my money is getting settled as a user there. Okay, but even this infrastructure is not available in a lot of countries. When you go to Dubai, right? One of the biggest challenges is the banks. If you try to move more than 50,000 dirhams after banking hours, they still rely on Swift, and they say you have to wait till tomorrow, to get the money around for someone else. So,
just for reference, 50,000 dirhams is how much INR?
50,000 dirhams is multiplied by somewhere around 10 to 12 lakh rupees.
Okay.
I mean, this is the
$10,000.
Yeah, somewhere around that. So that, and then if you go to US, PayPal, Venmo, these guys have tried to solve for it. And but these are like very siloed economies, which means that if your money is in PayPal, you can do 10 things, but you cannot do the 11th thing, and they're not interoperable. The beauty of UPI is it is interoperable, so you can have multiple apps kind of going out and doing that. So from a user perspective, like India is way far ahead as compared to the technology that is running across the world, and this is me like first-hand experiencing most of these tech. So that's why, like, when you look at India, the perspective of a stable coin or a stable currency or something is completely different as compared to the way like other world or the other countries perceive it, where a lot of people like in Latam are trying to get into the like US dollars because their currency is depleting, and like same with Africa, they just want to move out of their native currencies. But one thing that is a problem in India is our rupee is not fully convertible, which means that effectively there is an LRS scheme which allows anyone to like move only $250K per year per PAN card, and it is because of this restriction. The other big challenge is you cannot have like a freely floating stable coin, because you break like so many RBI rules just by kind of making it freely transferable. But that does not mean that there is no benefit. The way I look at it is Indian startups and Indian fintechs have done tremendous job in India, but when it is time to get them global, this is where we are finding the most use cases. Like for example, like a lot of people in US, they are like big cricket fans, and they use like Times of India's app and Willow in US, but they have to remit money into India. So there's a project which effectively enables that money to like from US to come to India through stable coins. Then a lot of new companies are effectively now getting established where the cost of like, because still India's cost of remittance is high, majorly because of this capital control. And because of this capital control, the other challenge that comes in is when you have the SWIFT network, which I'm sure everyone would have heard about. You cannot move INR on SWIFT because INR is not available on SWIFT networks. So when you have to effectively send money from one place to another in India for a business, you first have to convert it into US dollars, and then you have to convert it again to the native currency where it is being sent, which means there's a cost. On an average, compounds to around 4.8%, which if you equate like 1.7 trillion of trade volumes plus 125 billion of remittances, that equates to around 5,000 crores of expense in India every year just to move money. This is where the inefficiency is, and this is where we are seeing like a lot of startups actually coming in and solving it. And so if you look at other things, like for example, like US stocks are getting tokenized. And the demand is still not there because US stocks have been already available to Indians through like multiple apps. But can we take like Indian stocks outside? Is that a possibility? Yes, this is a possibility. Then I think the other prominent use case that
I think there's a limit, right, for Indians investing in US stocks.
There is no limit. It's basically the LRS rule. So you cannot invest more than 250K per year into any stock.
Okay. What are the apps that do this? IndMoney, I know of IndMoney.
IndMoney, yeah. IndMoney is one. There are a couple of others.
Okay.
And there's another one which is like that there are multiple other which allow you to hold multiple currency accounts. Now, so there are two benefits that come here. First, when you look at these stocks, so effectively what you do is when you load your money to IndMoney, this money is stored in US dollars in US, but it is not generating any revenue, and you don't like just, let's say you onboard like ₹1,00,000 on the app. You immediately would not go and invest into it. That money is lying idle. Can we create something where effectively they can generate some revenue out of it? Multi-account currencies, you have to hold bank accounts in multiple countries with multiple licenses. Can you hold non-USD stable coins instead of it and replace it? So these are like the biggest opportunities that effectively are coming in into the overall, like where you have to look at when you look at stable, being like blockchain being like super useful. So that is on the money side. The second biggest thing is like on the trust creation, and that's where like we have seen a lot of use cases actually come out. I don't know like if people know, but Manrega actually verifies all the data and puts it on the blockchain today.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
So the pilot was successful, and we are going for like the full implementation in like a month or two. So the entire Manrega's face verification of every employee will happen on the blockchain itself.
Do you know the full form for anybody who doesn't know?
Manrega is a scheme which
even I forgot, but it's.
No, I don't know the full form.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but it finally goes out. It's a benefit.
Yeah,
scheme,
it's
right.
so what Manrega is basically the low income scheme where effectively if you as someone who is not employed and you deserve a minimum wage, so you are effectively through Manrega, like if you are employed then you don't get you're getting through Manrega the revenue. If you're not employed then they compensate you. This is the biggest program in India that
Amazing.
could ever be.
And where is it happening?
So we have done the pilot with 5 lakh people on the face verification. So this would be an app that would be available for everyone to verify.
Amazing. This is on Polygon?
It's going to be on Polygon, yes.
Amazing.
Then I think there's another company which I think we have been working with who's effectively doing a lot of work on verification of like lifts. So all these lifts, like when you go out and install an escalator or a lift, there is an expiry period and then there's an auditor that needs to come in and verify. Often what happens is there is no auditor that comes in and they just fake reported that this is audited. So this is something which like the Maharashtra government actually came in and said, like we would want this authentication to happen, and there's a QR code in most of the lifts in Maharashtra. You can scan it, it will take you to Etherscan, where you can actually verify the transaction is actually sitting there.
Amazing. So, we have escalators on chain here in India. You heard it here first.
So, I mean, I can talk, like there are a lot of such use cases. Like there's another like, similar, like same partner actually helped us get into like the Bihar election test case also. Then like we are also working with like IRCTC to figure out if we can create a secondary market on chain for the tickets, because
I think IRCTC had NFTs.
Yeah. They were issued. They were like the initial phases, and now like they're like we're working towards getting that into the secondary marketplace, where if you have a ticket, you don't want to use it, you can actually sell it in the secondary market. So all these things are effectively also working in the government side, where a lot of that trust creation and like all those things are happening. Then if you go to the private sector, I think private sector has been also like apart from like the finance, the other use cases have like like Flipkart was one of the biggest use cases where almost 6.5 million participated. Now GeoCoin is the biggest one in India now, which has around 8.5 million, 9 million users now. So 9 million users actually have onboarded through that GeoCoin. So like a lot of enterprises also are like effectively starting to kind of look into it. So it's fintechs, governments, enterprises all kind of like taking a benefit from it. It's basically like most of these guys often are like, we don't want to kind of go out and push it in the market effectively, because then it attracts like a lot of attention and then they get into a lot of question answers. So, I mean, there are other use cases as well, but I think that is where like I think Ethereum ecosystem overall is heading towards, and like there's a good amount of adoption that has already happened. It's just that like that adoption has never been kind of publicly talked about for like good reasons.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is the major thing, one being global remittance, that being a major sector. Second is trust between parties inside India, like non-financial use cases. And the third thing is the private sector using it for things like loyalty points and much more, right? Since you've talked to all of these participants on the institutional level, how hard is it to convince, do they see this whole space as a scam, or like how that's
I don't think like they see it as a scam. The bigger challenge for them is like not having like a clarity on the regulation side. So okay. I think we would have moved way faster on a lot of adoption curves if like there was like clarity on how the things have to be done.
What's the issue with the clarity? Why don't they have clarity?
So as per like the I think the income tax, the VDA definition is anything that has cryptography embedded into it turns into a crypto token, which effectively you have to go out and start reporting to FIU. Now the problem is if I'm using like a crypto token, effectively CBDC is also then a crypto token. But anyways, point being like if you have to report your internal, let's say, loyalty points because they are like a crypto token, it becomes like a very difficult thing, because now you have to involve finance, taxes, legal, and everyone into the mix to understand it, to get everyone comfortable into it and then move forward with it.
So that makes me think that, is that why people, at least governments and like all of these institutions, were more comfortable with a sort of a hyperledger risk architecture rather than public blockchains? And if so, then what really is now changing their mind? Why they're more open to Ethereum?
I think this is something which is already happening. A very good example of this was Bank of Brazil, like the Central Bank of Brazil. They piloted for an entire year on Hyperledger, and then they shut down that entire thing, saying that we will never use Hyperledger.
Oh, why?
And this was because like they did not get scalability. Then there is no privacy. The moment you start doing privacy, the chain starts lagging. And then the third thing that they like, it's in the report, so nothing is like I am kind of criticizing there. So that is the second thing. And the third thing that they found out was interoperability was a very big pain. And now building this into a lot of enterprises itself, like literally globally, when we are talking to a lot of enterprises, they are facing the same challenges. The problem is, like, for example, I think there was this recent chain which came out and said we have 13 billion of RWAs. And then everyone was like, how can I verify? They're like, no, you cannot verify. This is what we are saying. Then, so effectively the point is nobody wants to take that because there is no way to prove it.
But that from what I understand, that chain was not a Hyperledger.
No, I'm giving you an example where like effectively what is happening is like this is what is pushing people back towards like public chains.
Makes sense.
I think back in 21 when like the JP Morgan conversation was happening and we did like the public demo with them, like one of the biggest challenges they also highlighted was if you are on a private chain, it is your own liquidity. If you are on a public chain, it's not your liquidity, which means public chains effectively give you the efficiency to kind of work and create better synergies than you using your own money for everything. So all these things like now are kind of pushing a lot of enterprises that we are talking to, because they are like, okay, we understand that like we could have done it like in a private chain. And the other thing is also like the technological advancements. You can actually go out and run your own complete chain in-house. And then through a ZK proof, you can actually prove it on Ethereum, which effectively gives you the same color of what a Hyperledger would do.
Interesting.
It's just that like the knowledge curve is still not yet there, but like effectively it is catching up.
And my last question is, are there any architectural advantages to sort of Ethereum over all of these alt L1s that we have? We have a lot of alt L1s, right? And some of them have also made significant inroads into India. But are there like any like architectural advantages to Ethereum specifically, and also why it is like, which is why also Polygon chooses to settle on Ethereum?
I mean, the biggest point is like alt L1s would always exist. Why? Because VCs always make money on an L1. So I think that would always be a case. The second thing is, I think if you look at the space, the biggest benefit, because I come from the business development world and 4 years I've been doing just that. The biggest thing that I've noticed on Ethereum, and this is like a very big thing, no institution goes to Ethereum Foundation and says, can you pay me $10 million to deploy on your chain? Which means that it's a very powerful statement, because ultimately, like without naming any other chains, all these chains who are like trying to go out and run this narrative, like we will pay you 10 million, become exclusive to us, they're running out of money. And Ethereum has not even spent a single dollar, which is like not about that. But the second thing is, because of this reason, you're finding everything is available on Ethereum. So you do not have to worry about anyone you talk to, like any institution that I talk to, the first thing they're like, we are going on Ethereum and we will do these two other chains. When we are talking to them, why don't you also deploy on Polygon? So whenever we are getting into the conversation never is like, okay, you would be the only chain, or like we would only deploy on an L2, we will only do this. But like what they often come in and say is like, okay, we are deploying on Ethereum and we want to do it 2 more chains, and what would be the other 2 chains? Because the liquidity is available. Today, like the third advantage is DeFi exists on Ethereum on a very big scale as compared to any other chain. And because of that, also what happens is, like if you look at USDC, USDT, like they often never share like the yields, but effectively the DeFi can actually still offer you the same yields, which is not technically available on any other chain until and unless you are highly incentivizing it. Like there are millions of dollars being put into incentives, but even then it is not actually creating a very good ecosystem. So that's why like Ethereum is by default like the choice for almost everyone without even being in the room.
Amazing. And I don't know, we can go on for hours talking about all of this, but we are almost at time. I just want to you to just leave us with some last thoughts on what are opportunities for Ethereum that are out there for anybody looking into the space.
I think the biggest opportunity is like how you can convince or how you can start building something which, like the examples that I gave you, like cross-border payments. Don't think about, when you're thinking about like stable coins, think about if you're thinking that I would be able to change the behavior of customers from UPI to stable coins, it's not going to happen until and unless you're coming with like $3-4 billion of treasury. Because that's how like Paytm, PhonePe, all these guys actually spend that kind of a money to change the behavior. Where people are suffering is still like cross-border payments. That is one avenue. The second is if you are a fintech, how you can go global. That is a big thing. The third thing is on the side of like getting Indian stock tokenized and getting it outside. The fourth is also like create like this multi-currency accounts that I was telling you. Fifth and the last one I would say is more on the side of things which effectively you can create on a verification layer, because once you create that, so if you look at all these systems that are getting created, like UPI is one system, but like then there's another system which is coming on the electricity side where it's called UIDAI or something, I don't remember the name. All these systems effectively will need like a payment mechanism. This is where effectively if you're looking for an in-house or like within India payment systems, that is where you can get in, but it is like super difficult effectively because these systems first are not built. Second, these are like super closed on who can create that. And the third, like it requires like you to actually go and start working on the systems that you don't understand. So that's why it's the last choice I've put in, but there is still opportunity in that side as well.
Amazing. And there you have it, the future of Ethereum in India. Thanks a lot, Aishwary, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Aishwary. Now we have Yash and Casey from Zoogramma to present their talk on Nanogramma. Please welcome them on the stage.